Woman leads high-speed chase through parts of Southern California.
Northbound 5 freeway, and you can see it right there. It's going through Rosecrans. So right now we're in the Norwalk, Downey area. You know, these type of high speeds, and now you can see it in the emergency lane. When they do this, I always get a little bit, do that, oh my goodness, what's going on? But then I also get a little kind of happy because I think to myself, there's a lot of debris out there in those emergency lanes. Maybe they're going to pick up a nail, something that's going to puncture one of those tires and maybe bring it to an end peacefully and slowly. But look at this, 103 miles an hour passing vehicles in that emergency lane, like the emergency lane in that carpool lane, almost like they're standing still. That traffic really starting to build. This is going to get very worrisome.
The chase began around 1:30 p.m. on Friday, September 13th, 2024, in the Barstow area. The woman, who was driving a white Ford Expedition with Arizona license plates, was originally wanted for hit and run. She was seen driving through parts of San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange, and Los Angeles counties. She was driving at speeds in excess of 100 mph on Interstate 5 toward Norwalk.
Not talk to law enforcement. Law enforcement, by the way, still behind it. California Highway Patrol, they're in the lead. They have a helicopter above it. That helicopter making calls to the guys on the ground as they might not be doing this type of dangerous driving. I'm going to stay a little bit wider. I won't lose the car, but you can see them. They're actually right there. One of the lead vehicles is right behind it and staying in that emergency lane at speeds of over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know, we saw that vehicle almost come to a complete stop. That is actually appreciated. I like it. A lot of these folks doing what they're supposed to do. They're hearing those lights and sirens from that vehicle behind it. They're moving out of the way, being predictable, getting out of the way of that law enforcement vehicle. But that also is giving that suspect a path to keep continuing as they're driving. This is one of those ones where it's good and bad. I never want to see anybody get hurt along with law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't want that either. I've said that many times on air. I've got to bring that up again. You know, they are concerned about that driver as well as the civilians and, of course, their own law enforcement, the California Highway Patrol. In this case, they don't want to see anybody get hurt. So when those lights and sirens are on, people are getting out of the way, being predictable. And that is good for anybody that's involved. That's keeping everybody away from that suspect, but it's also giving that suspect an open lane to drive through. The speed's kind of going up and going down as they are available to that driver. Again, though, just a little bit of a paint swap right there, and you just got to wonder what is going on. Why is she running at these type of ridiculous speeds to get away from law enforcement? It has Arizona plates on it. I wonder if maybe it's a rental. I haven't heard that, by the way. Sometimes they'll say that on the air, on the CHP frequencies. They'll kind of say it comes back to a rental company. Hard going through those lanes right there, cut off one of the vehicles, but California Highway Patrol, one of those vehicles right behind it, I'm venturing to say, yeah, they're his buddies.
There we go.
They're going to stay with this the best they can. You know, if anybody's wondering about a pit, I haven't heard it. I doubt they're going to do that on the freeway, especially with all these other civilian vehicles around. But believe me, if the opportunity comes up, they may use spike strips, and of course they may use that pit maneuver, but not when they're on the freeway, and especially not with other vehicles around it.
That's
Getting
right.
off the freeway, you can see it, Lakewood Blvd. So this is going to be one of those ones where if those high speeds continue, that's a big vehicle, but that is a newer Expedition. So I'm not saying that it's going to handle like a Porsche or a sports car, but it's definitely going to be. Look at this, little off-road. Does it go off-road? I guess it does. Look at that, right through the grass, back onto the road. You know, she's got. Look at the CHP. They're doing the same thing.
Yep.
And back onto the freeway. You know, we didn't see this, but we heard this earlier. That not that off-roading part, but we did hear them get off of the freeway for just a moment on the 91 and then get back on. So that's not the first time that this vehicle has done that. You know, you've got to wonder though, is this a destination drive or not? Because it seems very much like she got on the 91. They had a lot of options. Then they got onto the 5 freeway, but it really seems like it wasn't one of those. Oh, I'm getting into traffic. Let me just pick this other freeway. It almost seems like this is a destination. I'm just putting that out there. I've been wrong in the past. I'll be wrong in the future. But right now, we're going to keep an eye on it. Those speeds slowing down, but you can see how fast this vehicle, she is passing all these cars down there. This is always very worrisome, especially when we're following it in a pursuit. You know, I don't think nope, we're not. Right through that gore point. You know, California Highway Patrol is not going to just kind of walk away from the this if this vehicle gets off of the freeway, say right now in the Southgate area. They're not just going to be like, okay, well, you know, not on our freeways, we're done, we'll just clean our hands of this and walk away. They're going to stay with this, and maybe they might hand it off to a local agency, but a lot of times we've seen it in the past. California Highway Patrol is going to follow this to the end. That vehicle's still making these little bits of turns out here, kind of blending in, but that's not what they're doing. Just trying to navigate a lot of this traffic. It is Friday traffic and definitely not Friday light. You can see it right there. I'm going to keep a little bit of a wider shot. You know, the emergency lane is always wide open, and it apparently is what she likes to drive on. But right now, staying in that far right lane, you can see those speeds picking up. Once again, that truck, you got to wonder about the fuel economy. How much gas do they have? There's all these questions, and I think that's one of the reasons why viewers like to watch a pursuit. They want to know. They want to see how this ends. They want to figure out what did they do. Looks like we are taking an off-ramp. I don't think we're going to go to the Citadel, but it looks like we're going to get into a lot of traffic. This is one of those spots. I know this off-ramp. I know this area, and it made a pretty good choice right there, making basically a U-turn, coming back southbound here, and we're going to be on Telegraph. This is, again, a nice wide open area. California Highway Patrol going to stay right behind it, but those folks, if she starts running red lights, this could become very, very scary for a lot of folks down there. That is a big, heavy SUV. There's also the Commerce Casino. Hopefully they don't decide to pull into there. I'm going to try to keep control of that camera. Sorry about that. Hope everybody took their Dramamine. But you can see it right there, getting to that center gore point.
Yeah.
Speeds are really starting to pick up once again. But the law enforcement right behind it, and of course that helicopter not going to let this thing get out of its sight. Hopefully Skyfox can do the same.
That's right, the CHP helicopter, Sheriff's Department helicopter tracking this vehicle, and we know that there are at least 3 black and whites on its tail. You see traffic at a standstill and that driver running the light right there. That could have been very dangerous, but you see traffic on both sides, and this driver totally disregarding that, going in the other lane, head on to traffic, and then running through that light. Thankfully, no collision here. We do not want to see any loss of life or injuries or any innocent drivers being impacted by this, but clearly that is very erratic driving right there. And this driver, where are they turning onto at this point?
Well, we just made our way onto Washington. I drive this area not a lot, but I'm very familiar with this spot. And you know what? Some of these streets out here, I don't like to drive it at freeway speeds, and I'm not being chased by freeway speeds. It's at regular street speeds, and I'm not being chased by anybody. It can get very confusing, but again, she doesn't seem to be driving like I said, maybe going to a destination, maybe not. Made our way into a neighborhood now, but those speeds not slowing down. That stuff always kind of bothers me, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers as well. Hard turn right there. I think she actually played a little bit of rubber as she made that turn. Didn't see that fishtail, but look at that, 50 miles an hour, that big heavy SUV in a small neighborhood. Another hard turn right there. That truck definitely has some sort of stability control on it. No fishtail at all, and that was a pretty fast turn, and that's a heavy vehicle. California Highway Patrol, they're staying with it. Ooh, right through a stop sign right there. Again, they're not keeping track of this stuff. They're not like somebody's not sitting down there going, oh, they ran a stop sign, oh, they ran a red light. But when they do it, what I'm concerned about is somebody else might be in the area. There might be somebody just walking, riding their bike. Who the heck knows? But when these cars are moving at 50 miles an hour, running red lights out here, that always is very concerning for law enforcement, definitely all the viewers as well. And again, you can see it moving along, making our way back northbound. We're going to be on Washington Boulevard. This is a bigger street, but traffic today, making another turn. Maybe she's trying to get back to the freeway.
Oh, it's so concerning when they drive into a residential area like this, blowing stop signs and street lights, and we are getting to the point, 2:15 right now, school's letting out for a lot of schools in the area in the next half hour to hour or so, so hopefully this will come to some kind of conclusion before there's a big threat in those neighborhoods. But clearly when she first turned onto Telegraph, I was hoping and hopeful that it was more of an industrial area as we've seen around the Citadel, but not so much where this person's going, more so in the residential areas at this point. And you're looking at that late model white Ford Expedition maneuvering pretty well in those high speeds around those turns, making fast, quick turns right there, trying to evade the black and whites, but clearly they got their sights on her.
Got her sights on her. We're going to have to move Skyfox just a little bit because of that sound wall. Again, she's riding that emergency lane right there. Now we're going southbound 5. So we were doing north for most of that drive since we've been on air just about. So now we're turning around and going southbound. I'm going to cross out. If this is a bingo game or this is one of those ones where we're just checking stuff off, I'm going to cross off destination unless you missed her destination. But it looks like we're just turning around and now we're going the opposite direction. We're going to be in that emergency lane. You see it right there. And the speed's slowing down just a little bit, but look at all that traffic. And that California Highway Patrol, you know what, I didn't grab the shop number. That's that number on that roof to make sure, see if this is going to be the same person that entire time, that same driver. But if it is, boy, that guy's going to get a gold star when they get back to their base, because I tell you, they've been doing a fantastic job keeping up with this suspect and also being safe. Looks like we're going through it. There was a green light, but we're doing that on again, off again, a little bit of a rope-a-dope. Another California Highway Patrol, you know what, he's probably just sitting there making sure people are doing the right thing with the what is that? The HOV lane, but today maybe he's going to get a little bit of a pursuit action. Squeezing on, not a good choice. Look at all that traffic right there. So if that emergency lane goes away, not 100% familiar with it, but if that goes away, she's going to get stuck in that traffic. That might give the California Highway Patrol an opportunity to do something. But you know what? What can they do? They can't put themselves in harm's way. They can't put themselves in front of that vehicle. A pit maneuver, not with all these other cars around. Oop, doing a little bit more off-roading right there. But, you know, the good thing is, Sandra, every time they hit those curbs, I'm always thinking to myself, how good are those tires? How did she hit that curb? You know, maybe she'll bend the rim. Maybe she'll crack the rim. Maybe it'll pop a tire. But right now, though, looks like this pursuit's continuing. And southbound 5 is where we're at through Commerce.
Wow. And clearly people don't understand or realize the amount of training that these CHP officers undergo in terms of how to drive. It sounds like a basic thing, but it's a completely different tactic and skill when they have to pursue a driver like this who's erratic, who's a threat to society, who's dangerous, and driving at high speed. So these CHP officers are trained for hours and hours, knowing what to do, how to maneuver, where to basically protect the public, and how to pursue suspects like this who are a threat and who have, in fact, perhaps done something worthy of an arrest. So clearly, this is a skill that is not to be taken lightly because, again, the hours and hours of training that goes into knowing how to do this, it is an art and a skill, especially here in LA, when you consider how long these pursuits can last. So initially, just want to let our viewers know this pursuit started at about 1:31. The initial want is a hit and run in Barstow and Ranchero. That's according to the CHP and the information we're getting into our newsroom. And then there we go. The suspect took off, and so a pursuit began. And so far, they have not let up on this suspect, who has gone northbound on the 5 and then back south on the 5. So clearly not sure what this driver intends to do, but thankfully we haven't seen any collisions. And we have seen, though, erratic driving at high speeds and also going against traffic, running stop signs and traffic lights. So a big concern for the community down there.
Big concern for sure. You know, California Highway Patrol and all law enforcement officers that are involved in these pursuits. Pursuit training is very serious. Those officers talk about multitasking. A lot of times they are actually making calls on the radio, saying where they are, keeping an eye on other options that they can take while they're chasing that suspect, and also making sure that the public is safe. They do a lot behind the wheel. That suspect, all that person is doing right now is driving fast and erratic. And again, of course, she doesn't want to collide with something, but, you know, in that same breath, it could happen so quickly. And if they were making our way right now on Telegraph, you see the traffic out there. I want to say it a little bit tighter just because of when we go through these lights, but that one was green. We did about 2 red lights there just a few moments ago, and look at that, getting a little stuck. Hopefully they don't get into that parking garage, but this is kind of the thing, Sandra. A lot of times we see these chases. A lot of times they're suspects. A lot of times they know, oh, let's go to LAX, let's go to this parking garage, let's dump the vehicle. This person doesn't seem to have that type of mindset. She's basically just driving fast, staying away from the officers, playing a game of keep away, which again is not going to last very long, because eventually the California Highway Patrol is going to follow this vehicle to wherever it goes. If those cars stay behind it, or if that helicopter follows it, some law enforcement is going to keep an eye on it for sure. But right now, I believe that was another red light. Thank goodness there was nothing going on right there. California Highway Patrol right behind it, 2 vehicles, and again that one is, I believe, has been behind it since we picked it up at that 91.5 split. And that vehicle, let's take a look at some of these speeds. I want to get up close to it and just kind of get you a real number. So 60 miles an hour right now on Atlantic. This is, now we're in the East Los Angeles area. This is we know that it's going to start getting very tight out here. The cars are going to traffic's going to become a lot heavier, and of course a lot more pedestrian traffic as well. You can see it right there coming up to another, probably a red light. But this is an area where you have sidewalk cafes that we see right there. You have street vendors. You got some construction going on. This is going to be an area that gets really tight. Pedestrians in this area, I always worry. But this big SUV continues to move along. That female driver, hit and run. Minor hit and run, and this is going on. I wonder what is really behind all this, and I wonder if we're ever going to really find out. But we know that we're going to follow it as long as we can. Hopefully that suspect is going to go into custody without any type of injury to herself and or anybody else as we go against traffic out here. Looks like we're running another red light. It's just, you have to wonder, why is this happening? Why is she doing this? Why? But, it is one of those ones where we're just going to watch it, keep an eye on it. California Highway Patrol doing an amazing job staying behind it. East Los Angeles, unincorporated. They do have the sheriffs out here, but some of this area is actually patrolled by California Highway Patrol. We'll keep it, and that was one of the things, too. We talk about it during the chases. There's a sheriff's vehicle right there. Believe me, he's not blindsided by that. He knows what is going on. He's been listening on the radio. They're all talking to each other, going across the median and into oncoming traffic. I don't know if those cruisers can do that. That's the reason why. There you go. We were talking about pursuit training. The one that's behind them, that's one of the reasons why they do that. Because if the front one has a problem, can't get there, you know what? My buddy's going to be able to scoop around and get there. And it's a K9. Oh, maybe we're going to get some dog action at the end of this. But right now, we're going to keep going. The pursuit's still moving. East Los Angeles, well established out there. I wonder if we're going to get the Boyle Heights in a few moments. But that white expedition this morning, or this afternoon, still going. And that driver determined to stay away from law enforcement.
Yeah, the majority of times you'll never know why a pursuit happens or begins and starts and ends, right? You never know the mindset of these drivers. We follow these and just hope and pray that nothing bad happens to the innocent public and to life and property, basically. And it is such a dangerous situation when you're in these communities, in these neighborhoods. Again, approaching pickup time for a lot of students and families out there. And then you see a high-speed, erratic driver like this. Who knows what they're thinking, where they're trying to go, and why they're doing this, but clearly a threat to the neighborhoods out there. But the hopeful thing here, from what I see, is because she is off the freeway, this driver could perhaps, there could be a point where CHP could throw down the spike strips, perhaps do a pit maneuver and stop this vehicle.
Well, Sandra, we've all been watching a lot of pursuits. We live in Los Angeles. How can we not? But, the thing is there's got to be a lot of stuff that lines up. The stars have really got to line up for them to do throw out that spike strip. Right now, we're in an area, I'm just kind of looking, we're back in the Southgate area. So this is a spot where it's going to be the sheriff's department. Could they get involved? There's a possibility. But, the car has got to have, the police or the sheriff's vehicle has got to have the spike strips in the trunk. The person driving it has to be certified, and then the opportunity has to be there as well. So there's a lot going on. It isn't just like law enforcement, everybody's got it, we're just going to jump out and throw a spike strip on the ground, and that's going to be the end of it. And also, it is a CHP pursuit. So they got to be talking to the in this case, the sheriff's department. So there's a lot in the mix right there. I'm guessing right now we're just going to keep following it. Sandra, you kept bringing up the schools, and I'm seeing all those. We just passed 2 school buses and 3 school buses.
There we go.
Makes me think there might be a school around here, and that's another thing. You know, we just don't want to see anybody get hurt, heaven forbid a child. But there you go, kind of went a little bit against traffic and a little bit back onto the road. If anything, I'm seeing this vehicle moving just a little bit slower. So I'm wondering if maybe the adrenaline's starting to wear off for the driver or something's going on, because the speeds, well, you know what, I'm just looking at the numbers. Maybe it just seems like it's going a little slower. They're still going about 50, 60 miles an hour here on these surface streets. And also, you know, we don't know. Is this her vehicle? Is this, you know, is it a rental? But I would venture to say there is some sort of navigation. Any of these new vehicles, especially a big, nice SUV like an Expedition, probably has some sort of navigation in there. So if she's trying to get back to some location, say a freeway, well, don't, oh, thank goodness for that. It wouldn't have been bad, but it would have been something right there. Mm-hmm. And that's coming to a stop, almost rear-ended that vehicle, probably getting out of the way for the lights and sirens. And, you know, that's, you know, all law enforcement say that. When you hear those lights and sirens, get to the right if you can, but be predictable if you can't. And so I'm sure, like, they're hearing those lights and sirens, they're moving out of the way, but that suspect, she's just thinking, okay, I can get by. But you saw it right there. There were two close calls. But again, those speeds way too high for these roads. And again, we're just keeping an eye on it. Just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
While on Interstate 5 northbound at Downey, the vehicle exited Lakewood Blvd. It then immediately traveled across the grassy area of the ramp, then proceeded to re-enter Interstate 5 northbound. Once in the Commerce area, the driver exited Atlantic Avenue and then drove at high speeds onto Telegraph Road. The suspect was seen driving on the wrong side of the road, running stop signs while traffic was backed up on Telegraph Road. After driving on surface streets in Commerce, the driver returned to Interstate 5, this time entering southbound and driving in the emergency
That's
lanes.
right. You know, that is the ultimate goal for the law enforcement. They just want to bring this thing to an end peacefully. Ultimate goal for Skyvox is just to keep an eye on it and make sure we can see where this goes. Going around a building, this is the Monterey Park area. I would venture to say we are getting into an area that has a lot of city buildings and also law enforcement buildings out here, which is unusual in itself that the suspect is going through this area. But you can see that vehicle. There was very little traffic on that road. This looks to be a little bit more industrial. There are more businesses here. And when I say businesses, I mean office buildings, things like that. They're making their way behind those trees, but we're going to keep an eye on it for sure. California Highway Patrol, they're down there on the ground. They're doing what they can to keep that public safe. Coming up to what looks to be, it was stopped because there was a California Highway Patrol officer there, keeping an eye on traffic. That shows you the coordination and the ability that law enforcement have. Oh, geez.
Gosh.
Look at that. Man,
okay.
She got some air on that. Oh, she didn't like that. Did not like that. Doors are open. She's out running and keeping you know, the law enforcement's got to be like right there. Of course they are.
Right.
And getting out running. You know what? I got to give it to her. That was probably the smartest thing she could have done, especially after that move. That truck got all four wheels off the ground there when it hit that bump. She's basically running to the back seat. There you go, taking her down. And there's the canine. There's the canine. But you know what, buddy? Oh, the poor dog just wanted to get a little bit of work in, but not today, not today. And you got her in custody. She practically ran into the waiting arms of the law enforcement.
Straight to the CHP patrol car. That's right. She knew this was the end.
But again, coming to an end out here, and we're going to be in the East Los Angeles area near Southgate. Other law enforcement arriving, but wow, what a wild ride for sure. Thank goodness nobody was injured, and whatever that collision was in Barstow, hopefully that other person is okay.